Doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. At certain times I had suicidal thoughts. It was a very dark time.
In this episode, Caleb Marshall and I break down exactly how he went from chronic fatigue syndrome to building and scaling a multi-8-figure company that has generated tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. I want to start this with the purpose behind the company that you've built.
We're on a mission to positively impact millions of people in their health.
The product is sold in over 70 countries all around the globe, and he's been able to do this with no previous business experience, no cash or no funding from any investors, and no knowledge whatsoever.
We were broke when we started. We're an 8-figure-a-year company.
What other sacrifices did you have to make?
You need to be dangerous in every single area. I was learning every single detail in the company. I wasn't giving that to an agency.
You know, number one e-commerce player in Australia, like doing what you do, and then it's like that inflection point.
We had the opportunity to be, the big retail players knew who we were, and they actually asked us to be on shelf in 2018, 2019. We said no, because life was so good. Now, that was a dumb decision. One of the biggest hidden secrets of the health food aisle and industry is...
Caleb, what's up? Thanks for being here. I want to start this with the purpose behind the company that you've built. We were talking a little bit before, and it's really evident to me. Like I did some research about you. I looked through your story, and I know we were just sharing a little bit there in terms of like you've been able to essentially build this company around a problem that you solve for yourself. And I look at that from the outside, and I see that as one of the biggest reasons that the company's like grown so much. Can you share a little bit about like the purpose of why you do what you do?
Yeah, so we have a central mission. We're on a mission to positively impact millions of people in their health. I'll take you on the story and the journey on how we even got here in the first place. So between 2011 and 2014, I was chronically sick. Doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. They gave me the label chronic fatigue syndrome, which is exclusionary. So pretty much they go through the full list of things that are wrong with you, and they say, well, it's not this, not this, not this, that you could be diagnosed with. And they get to the end and they say, well, you got chronic fatigue. And at that point, you're like, all right, shit. All right, thank you for no solution. So what that looked on a day-to-day basis was chronic sickness. So inflammation throughout my whole body, pain throughout my whole body, utter fatigue. Like I felt like I'd been hit by a bus every single day.
Wow.
With the physical pain came mental pain, depression. At certain times I had suicidal thoughts. It was a very dark time. And I had, no hope in the medical system because they had no answers for me. So it took me on a journey of healing myself and figuring all of this out. And it was a very different time back then. It's very, very different in terms of how people perceive health and wellness. And in 2014, I found a thing called functional medicine, integrative medicine. And these doctors were saying radical things back then, which aren't radical anymore, which is if you cut out the crap from your diet and you replace it with high quality nutrition, your body has the capacity to heal itself in pretty much most cases. And I tried everything else and I thought, all right, I'll give that a go. And I cut out the crap from my diet. I allowed my body, I did certain detox protocols as well that allowed my body to take the inflammatory load off my body. And it was an absolute miracle. And 3.5 years of constant sickness in just a few weeks.
Wow.
Completely changed. And I took all the symptoms away that I was feeling. And my housemate at the time, who's now my business partner, my co-founder, was also going through his own health journey. And we later found out through the functional medicine doctors that it was gut issues from long-term. I took long-term antibiotics for my skin as a teenager from 16 up until when I got sick at the age of 21. And so that completely destroyed my gut and my immune system. And what was worse was I also, while I was trying to heal, I moved into an apartment, which was the one that me and my housemate were in, that was full of mold.
Oh, wow.
Inside mold toxicity as well, that later through lab results showed that were 20 to 30 times above the upper safe limit. So
Jesus,
I was able to figure all of this out, but I think what happened and the catalyst was I was going down to the health food store at the time when I changed my life around and with my housemate, and we both realized that the only people going into a health food store at the time were old people and hippies. And this is 2014. And
true.
And we were like, well, someone has to make this cool and relatable on social media, health foods. Why is it that someone, and when we think about social media, it's really just a place for people to express their values, right? Yeah. And so why was it that people could express their values of fun on the weekend where they could tag or take photos of them going out to a club or drinking their favorite alcoholic beverage, but they couldn't express their values of being healthy through a product. And so we decided to start Tropeaka through that. And it took us just under 2 years to find the best product development teams, suppliers, put it all together to create the best quality products that we were also taking at the time. And so we started Tropeaka to scratch our own itch, which takes us back to what you said at the start, which is like that we got into this for the reason of wanting to impact people's lives, wanting to make a massive difference. And that's the overarching theme of positively impacting millions of people in their health is, well, to do that, we need high quality product. We need great customer service. And then we need a layer onto that brand because people want to show off our products in order to say, yeah, like this is me. I'm into health and wellness and I want to show it on social media, or I want to show it on my kitchen table when friends come around rather than having it in the back of the pantry. And then on top of that, you layer all the functions of the company in order to work towards that central North Star, which is our mission.
So when you initially kind of like launched, because I see your products everywhere now. Like I go to the supermarket and I'm like, it's there. I've used a lot of your products.
Cool.
Were you solving a specific problem initially with like the first range that you launched, or like what was the kind of like core product range you were like, this is our first bunch of products?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story because our first product was to do kombucha before kombucha was cool.
Oh, wow.
And if you remember, we had gut issues, so that was part of it. We didn't have the money to start a kombucha brand. The MOQs were too high. So we're like, okay, what else do we take? And we were really big, I still am, really big into organic superfoods. So we're like, let's bring out superfoods. And then halfway through the journey of launching, we're like, oh, we also take a protein powder. Why don't we bring out a protein powder just as a bit of an afterthought? And why don't we like make a plant protein taste good? And funnily enough, superfoods is a massive like niche. So I'm so happy that we brought out the protein powders because that's a much bigger market. And we were essentially the first company in Australia, possibly one of the first in the world to make plant proteins taste great and not taste like crap.
Because they were nasty. Like my mum was having some plant proteins years ago, and I remember I was like, I don't know how you even ingest that. Like that is horrible.
A lot of them still are. They still haven't learned their lesson. But so we blew up off the back of our proteins. Wow. And now today we do everything from like creatine to weight loss shakes to collagen. We got organic coffee, organic tea. But it's been an evolution of like what's something in the market we can make a whole lot better than what currently is there.
Yeah. Now launching a supplement brand, like I have clients that come through, for example, in our community, and they tend to opt away from consumables, more complex, you know what I mean, more risks, more ingredients. There's a lot more things that could potentially go wrong. You know what I mean? Like when you were building the company, like was that kind of in the periphery of like, this is going to be pretty hard? You know what I mean? Or talk to me about maybe some of the challenges that you faced in terms of that level of complexity, sourcing the ingredients, making sure the ingredients actually fit the brief in terms of what needs to be ingested by humans, because it sounds like you wanted to create something super high quality. So how did that process go, like putting that together?
Yeah, it's really easy to create a supplement brand. It's really hard to create a great one. And I'm so happy that there's so many of those complexities out there. I've even just started a new company, and like from product development to regulatory work, hundreds of thousands of dollars of costs on our second company, and we already know what to do. Yeah. So Tropeaka was like quite a journey, and we've got such a strong moat in our business because of the complexities. So you're not going to go to a contract manufacturer and they're not going to create like a great quality product with like for free. It's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars if you do it properly to actually trial products and get the right product. Or even if it's thousands of dollars, you will then have to bring more products to market to get consumer feedback to then do the MOQs again. And by that time, tens and tens of thousands of dollars of product costs have occurred. We manufacture our own products. So the things that I'm probably most proud of in our company, outside of like the reviews and the impact that I can actually tangibly see we're making on customers, is like the ability for us to be so scrappy and to learn throughout the process. Like I remember one of the most pivotal things was when we moved, because we started out of our apartment, right? And then I remember when we moved to our warehouse, like needing to build a clean room so that we can actually scale it and do manufacturing. And I remember getting quoted like for like the cheapest amount back in, when was this, like end of 2016 or whatever, like, or 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, like well over $80,000. And we had like 30,000 in our bank account at that time. Right. And I'm like, okay, what do I do here? I need electricians, plumbers. I need the actual clean room itself. I need dust extraction. I need, equipment. And I ended up doing it all myself, figuring it all out, like as the actual builder and bringing the trades in and actually learning that process, right?
As a new project manager.
I project managed it,
got it.
Right? So we brought it down to like, I think it was $40,000 in the end.
Wow.
So like halving our costs. And luckily we made some money to get that $30,000 in our bank account up enough to be able to pay for the clean room. But it was like, that's the entrepreneurial journey. Like we were broke when we started. We had to, and we can talk more about this, how we actually scaled the company with like no money, because you've got to be scrappy. You've got to question the way that things should be done. You've got to take full ownership over things. Like, I wasn't a project manager. I wasn't a builder. I've never done that in my life. And so, but it's like, no, like our business won't survive if we don't do that. So figure out the solution, go find the experts. And so like one process in that was like, I got the guy that did the clean room materials, and then I asked him a million questions, and I was like, if you were to project manage, what would you do here and there? And then suddenly, instead of paying a project manager to do everything, you spend time researching, you find someone that is going to be able to help you, and you can build it for like half the cost. So that's like an example, but we've had so many of those over the years in terms of scaling a company for far, far less by taking extreme ownership over difficult things. And that's where your moat is. How do you,
so like the concept of keeping things scrappy, I'm like, I get that. Maybe just explain that from your perspective, because I'm like, with a product like yours, you can't exactly afford to have anything to do with the product being scrappy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that
got nothing to do with product quality.
That's what I mean. And so like, I see a lot of founders, they launch a product and the product is scrappy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the packaging, oh, it's not that good, but they can afford to because no one's eating it or consuming it. So like, you didn't have the luxury of being like, this is version 1 beta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it had to be great when it went to market. So like, what other sacrifices did you have to make as far as like scrappy here with team, scrappy
Such a good question.
You know?
It's such a good question. And this is where the devil is in the detail. It's so important. So our central mission was to positively impact millions of people in their health. You can't do that without an extremely good quality product. Yeah. And you can't do that without extremely good customer service. So there's no compromise there. So you're not scrappy in those areas. But you know where we were scrappy? I didn't hire someone when we had a $0 marketing budget to go do marketing for us. I was in the DMs building relationships with influencers in 2016. I was learning how to run Facebook ads in 2016 when it was actually very complex, right? Yeah. I wasn't giving that to an agency. I was learning every single detail in the company and how to do it really, really well off experts, so that I could be, like Gary Vee talks about this, like you need to be dangerous in every single area, right? And it's such an important thing for an entrepreneur. If you don't know how to do something really well before you delegate it, then you're going to be up shit creek without a paddle very, very soon. And so my focus has always been, don't act like a princess in these areas. Go and learn it really, really well. Your business is on the line, whether it's knowing how to do operations really well, knowing how to do marketing really well. We want customer service, all day, every day, like getting back to people straight away before we build a team around that. That's scrappy.
I love that. Yeah. How does that, because then the other side of that as well is that like, being a bootstrapped company, I believe there's no investment, no capital you've raised. It's all just like cash funded, which is super impressive, especially in this space. So it's like, do you think that you being so like, you got so much dirt under your fingernails type thing, you're in the trenches so much, was that a constraint? Did that perhaps like slow you down from like, did you become bottlenecks in areas because you were like holding on to, CS too much, or you were holding on to operations too much? And then maybe you were doing it so well that, you were like, geez, this is hard to let go of.
Definitely. We still have bottlenecks where my co-founder and I are the bottlenecks in the company. But what's your timeline, right? my timeline personally, like I'm working on this business for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So I don't care if we are a bit of a bottleneck which slows growth to some degree, so that we can really understand the process, so that I can level up as a business person, and so that when I hire people, I can have a really good understanding and expectation of what their role should be in the first place. I was a tennis coach before I started Tropeaka. I don't have a background in any of this. So I have a lot to learn, and scrappiness is all about having the humility to know that I need to get a whole lot better in every area of business. And as you scale, you just hit more roadblocks of things that you need to learn. Like they never go away. So our roadblock is no longer CS or DMing influencers, but our roadblock at the moment is me getting really, really good with understanding the relationships of like 3PLs overseas so that we can scale, and really understanding finance and cash conversion cycles so that we can actually run a profitable business off lead times that are months and months and months before you actually see the inventory turn into cash.
It's impressive. So you mentioned the timeline. So I find a lot of people, they break shit and they do things really poorly because there's like this like false timeline of like, I've got to have this, I've got to build this $1 million company by like next month. You know what I mean? And so like there's what you said there, I think is so fascinating, because like, I think the way that I think about it also is like, what if this was the business that you just own forever? Like what if this was the company that you handed to your kids? Like what type of growth would you have then? Like what type of customers would you select? You know what I mean? Or what kind of customers would you remove? What type of decisions would you make? And it's very interesting because you say that and you're like, I'm okay to be the bottleneck because I want fucking greatness. You know what I mean? I want the best quality. I want things to be done right, which is fascinating to think of it, because it's like, it's always the opposite, where it's like, get yourself out as quickly as possible, get yourself out over here as quickly as possible, and just like, oh, yep, that'll do. Oh, yep, that'll do. You know, and your mindset is like, I'm okay. I know the sacrifice that I'm making potentially to growth, but I really want this type of a standard.
Yeah, and look, the opposite of that is also true as well. Like everything is opposite forces trying to work together. And so there is plenty of times in our company where it's also like you can't be the bottleneck. Like we got to grow here. We got to hire. Like I can think of plenty of situations, like even my co-founder, like he does everything that looks great in Tropeaka is because of him.
Right.
He's an incredible creative, but like you can't just continue to do basic creative, you know, like and to his credit, he's moved up the value chain a lot over the years, right? So there has to be that push and pull, and there has to be also the understanding that if you can hire someone who can do things 70% as good as you, then that's still a great win if it allows you to do more strategic stuff. So it's not one or the other, but I would say that, look, if you're an entrepreneur and you're in a bootstrapped startup, you should be far more to the side of scrappiness and learning things inside out and having a longer timeline. And then once you're an 8-figure company like us and you've got the ability to scale and hire people, then yeah, like the pendulum swings the other way towards what you were just saying, where you also shouldn't be the bottleneck.
Yeah. I remember when I was first starting like my automotive repair company some years ago, and I was like, we will get back to you in the emails. And it was like us, and like, we will do this. And I'm like, it's almost like you're trying to like be bigger than you are, trying to like pretend like you know what you're doing. I just remember like, and then thinking back to that, all the things that I did to like do the opposite of just get in and do the work. Oh, like let me see if I can get this designer to do this, or let me like prematurely hire this agency because like I should be, you know, just doing the business stuff, not focusing on running advertising. And it's like, that is the business stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, I see it so often where people are just like, I don't have time, I need to delegate this. I don't have time, I need to delegate this. And then their business suffers. And it's like, why do you think it's suffering? Because you don't know how to measure what they're doing. And you're like, spending investment, have no idea what's happening. Oh, why am I losing money now? You know, it's did that always kind of come innately to you, or was just from like the kind of demand or supply constraints of not really having cash to actually afford it?
Pretty much that, yeah. When you're broke and you try to scale a company and you don't have outside investors, then you've got those constraints every single day in the business. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think back to those days. Like we've always done a lot to learn about the next steps that we need to take in building a company. Like I've always really focused on asking questions and seeking out advice from people who are far smarter than me ahead of time. So the questions that I'm asking in business at the moment aren't really questions for where our company is at the moment. It's questions of where I want our company to be in 12 months or maybe 18 months. And it's like, who are the people that I can ask those questions to that have been there and done that? It's where like mentors are fantastic. And so I think coming from a background of tennis coaching, funnily enough, and coaching people through that process was actually really beneficial, where like as a coach, you always, and I coach some high level players as well, and coaching them with a game plan in mind for where you want to be 6, 12, 18 months ahead of time was actually a really, really good bit of education into the entrepreneurial way of life. And so when we went into being entrepreneurs in Tropeaka, like I knew that, okay, our company's here, but like if I don't start preparing for where we will be in 12 months time and the knowledge that I need to know or the systems that I need to have in place, it's going to be very painful. So I think that helped as well.
It's interesting because like thinking about it from like the coaching perspective, it's like you would have done that with, for example, your clients or your players that you're working with. You're like, okay, so this is the skill set you've got. We've got a competition or something happening in this amount of time. We need to close that skill gap. We need to work on your forearm, whatever the terminology is. I'm not
forehand,
whatever, forehand, forearm. And then so it's like you do certain things for a period of time to close the gap, so you get people prepared for a competition.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like very similar in business. I want to talk about the timeline because you mentioned I'm doing things now that's kind of like organizing myself towards the next like 12 to 18 months. Why that timeline? Why 12 to 18 months that you look at?
Great question. I'm still thinking on other timelines as well. Like I know what we're doing next week. I know. I hope so.
I know where I'm going after this podcast.
It's important, right? It's important to know what like you're doing next week as a company. I know our basic marketing timeline's 2 months out at the moment.
Yeah,
which is great. I know where we want to be in 6 months' time. That's all very clear stuff. But to make big, genuine tactical changes and especially strategic changes, you're looking 12 months out. Or at least to make those strategic changes and actually implement them. Like, for instance, US 3PL, like something I've been working on for 12 months plus.
Right.
And then just actually implementing that really well and then dialing that up to be a really profitable thing is like you're thinking 12, you're thinking, okay, well, initially you're thinking, okay, we can get this in place in like 6 to 9 months. Of course, it always takes longer. And then you've got it in place, but then you've got to dial up your creative, your marketing, your influencers. You got to start thinking about, okay, what are you going to do in terms of retail in that space as well? What are you going to do in terms of Amazon? So that really becomes an 18-month to 24-month timeline. And so that's just one example of many things that I'm thinking of.
How do you I guess rationalize / like, so I'm working on this 3PL thing. I'm doing it for the next 18 months. This is where my focus is. And you might kind of like solve that problem somewhat, but like you mentioned, you've got to dial it up, right? And tighten things and improve the systems around that to increase profitability. Now, at the same time, you've got Australian market, which is where you live and operate, and you're generally probably awake for most of the time. Business as usual. You got fires that are, pulling your attention into this. So it's like, how have you found yourself perhaps being able to manage these long-term projects that have like time horizons that seemingly just extend, right? There's kind of milestones that maybe get missed. There's like things that seem like they're not really working as much. And then you've got business as usual here. That's like, hey, Caleb, we need your attention. You know what I mean? Like, how do you separate those two, and how do you keep that being like the value driver of where we're going while still being like, got it, we're managing this business as usual, it's okay?
Well, you can't start a major project until you've got your house in order first. Like, case in point, like we dominated e-commerce up until COVID, and then 1 year into COVID. And then COVID actually sucked for us as an e-commerce business as a whole after the initial year, because it meant every single other company outside of e-commerce came into our space. And so in 2022, 2023, we had to make a major pivot in our company. And so we did the opposite. We drove into retail, and we've done that very successfully.
How did that happen? Because like e-commerce to retail, like that's a big move.
Yeah, so I started asking questions in 2021, 12 to 18 months out, thinking, how do I do this? And I started talking to a bunch of people, and through that, people far smarter than me were able to help and direct my thought process. I get a whole bunch of data in from all different angles, and we were able to go in the right direction in order to do a massive launch. And, you know, we've got 18 products in Coles nationwide, and we've got exports, and we're in about 1,000 stores around Australia in terms of independence as well. We're able over a 24-month period really to turn the business around in that area and put our house in order. And we're also able to double down on the areas in our business that needed to be doubled down on in order for us to regain our strength on e-commerce.
Right, got it.
And now we're up across e-commerce, we're up across retail, and we're doing very, very well despite a black swan, black swan, like the concept of that, something you can't predict, COVID coming in, and absolutely, like, even in our space, people didn't want to think about e-commerce in 2019. And so we were living life, we were dominating, and people didn't even realize that. And it was fantastic. You know, it was government reports saying who was the biggest player in that space, and we're like, we're doing more revenue than them. So it was pretty funny. So people didn't even know about us. And then when things change. And so you get back to scrappy. And
how was that?
I was scrappy.
Because that must have been a big adjustment. Like you're, number one e-commerce player in Australia, like doing what you do, and then it's like that inflection point Andrew Grove talks about, like, you know what I mean? Only the Paranoid Survive. I love his books. That's a pretty good example of that. Your business as usual of like, this is the way we do things is like fundamentally at risk.
Yeah.
How did you manage that?
Sucking it up and figuring out what your next steps are. And it's pretty obvious, like the market is much bigger in retail. And so we had the opportunity to be like, the big retail players knew who we were, and they actually asked us to be on shelf in 2018, 2019. We said no, because life was so good. And why would you go and do that?
Right.
Now, that was a dumb decision, right? Hurt us massively. So it's fine now because we went back into that space. But the big thing is realizing the stupid mistakes you made in the past, and then the new path that you got to take, and taking extreme ownership of it. And when one market is saturated, then you go to another market and build that market up. And then also just being smart around the existing market. Okay, like what do we need to do in order to build our e-commerce market size again when a bunch of it got taken from us through all of these new players that came into the space. Every man and his dog wanted to start a supplement company during COVID. And so we did that, and we refocused what works in e-commerce and nailed what we needed to do in the omni-channel game with retail, and then obviously exports as well.
I just want to drill into that concept that you mentioned of like get your house in order, because I think it theoretically, I understand it makes sense, you know what I mean? And in order for you to take big bets and like swing for these big 12, 18 month strategic decisions, like it helps to have the foundation. You know what I mean? If you don't have certain things in order within your business, it's going to feel very shaky, and you'll take these like premature bets. You'll pull them back before they've even had the chance to live. So what does that look like for you? Like if you were to say to somebody right now that like, they've got $1 million annual brand, and they're like, oh, geez, it's scrappy. Cash is in, cash is out. It's a little bit all over the place. Sometimes products are profitable. Sometimes our channels are profitable. It's like, and I'm looking to go and expand into the US. I want to go and do these big plays. Like, what would you be like? Get these things sorted before you do that. You know what I mean? What would those things be?
Well, probably an obvious is like really understanding your finances. Now, I understood our finances in 2019, but there's different levels to understanding your finances. So if you're going to go into the US, I spoke earlier, like cash conversion cycle, right? Like we might manufacture inventory, and it's not till another 5.5 months until that inventory is sold. Once you put it on the water, ship it over, get it through customs, put in the 3PL, and then start selling through it all. So if you don't understand, and being bootstrapped makes that incredibly hard. And we're also not a company that takes loans. Like we've taken one loan, and I'm not opposed to it, but we've always worked off the constraint of literally what's in our bank account is what we spend.
Jesus, that's impressive, man.
Well, it's also can be dumb, right? So like everyone picks their battles. Like if we had more guts in that area, our business could probably be 4 or 5 times bigger. And we're a really good sized business at the moment, but also we could be bankrupt. So you got to understand yourself, right? Like I can go to sleep at night every night because I know we're extremely conservative. We're too conservative. And so it's about coming back and really like being honest with yourself. Like, okay, when we really needed a pivot in the company, like, and get our house in order, like what are the things that need to get in order? Well, how well do I really know our finances, right? Because things were so good, I could understand our finances, but I didn't really need to understand our finances because we were making a lot of money, right? We were in a good place.
When things are good, you don't need to look at things with too much scrutiny.
Exactly. So we were in a very fortunate position, but actually it was even more fortunate that we went through hard times because we've been able to get really good now. And so being honest about all your dumb mistakes, going out and seeking mentors and figuring out how to actually run a company like a professional is very important. That's all getting your house in order, understanding where your weak points are. Like, are you diversified enough? Well, we weren't, right? We could have been. We made a dumb decision about not getting into retail earlier. Okay, so let's get our house in order by pushing in omni-channel. And then where's our core focus in our business? How do you generate sales in e-commerce? Well, you really do it through like influencers or performance marketing. So like, how good are you in those areas? What's your biggest lever? What's your biggest leverage point in the company? And how can you get on that biggest leverage point 30% better? Because that can make a massive change. And like, are we, as a leader of the company, am I directing resources effectively into those areas? Do I have the right culture of people at the company who are willing to put in the effort in order to, and get out of their comfort zone in order to turn the Titanic around? And so that's all the things like, and do we have a central mission and a kind of a guide point and a path in order to achieve that central mission? And does everyone in the organization understand how to get there? And we're a lot better at that these days. I still make lots of mistakes, still got lots to learn. But if you can be honest with yourself and know, the toughest thing in business is actually when you don't know the things that you don't know. So the quicker you can figure out what you don't know, the better you are. Because then you can actually take action on that. And oftentimes that involves spending a heap load of time with researching experts and what they have to say, which I spend a lot of time on. And then asking questions to people that are a whole lot smarter than yourself, which is what I try to do a lot of.
There's that, I kind of look at it usually from like the perspective of, there's those problems that you can like plot over the next like 12 to 18 months. And you're like, definitively with a high degree of confidence, they are going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you know that you're going to have a cash flow problem, or you're going to have this stock issue around whatever the things are, you're like, I'm going to have those things. And I always like to prepare for them to the best degree possible, because I'm like, there are going to be the unknown unknowns that you just don't see coming. You know what I mean? And it's like, if I know those things are coming and I can look at them in the eyeball and I don't prepare, like, you're just damn stupid. Because at the same time, you're going to have those other things that sideline you that you're like, oh, geez, really? And it's like, so you got three things juggling at once because you didn't prepare adequately. Yeah. You mentioned being like perhaps like too conservative. If you were more risk averse, what were some things maybe differently that you would have done? If you were like more like, let's go, let's push even harder, you had a higher risk tolerance, would there be maybe some key decisions that you might have made differently? Yeah,
I would have borrowed money in order to double down on the performance marketing that was working, especially pre-iOS 14. I would have, if I could go back in time, I would hire like really good specialists in certain key roles that a company requires in order to scale, especially around performance marketing. And I would have gotten product into our key markets overseas a lot quicker.
Right.
Rather than being ignorant of the benefits of doing that and or scared or concerned.
Right. How is it like because obviously hindsight's a fantastic teacher. You look back and you're like, okay, like it wasn't that bad. Like, what were some things maybe that you were like initially afraid of, or you were scared of doing, that once they happened, you were like, all right, yeah, that wasn't actually that bad?
Great question, because that's really a question on what did I actually do right? Yeah. Is that what you're saying? Like, what are some things that I actually took risk on?
Correct, yeah.
The interesting thing about that is everything I took risk on, I pretty much knew that it was going to be a success almost.
Interesting.
Or at least I was like, as an entrepreneur, you got to have that level of dumb confidence.
Naivete, yeah. Yeah.
So like you can't go and take a risk on something and be like, oh, I hope this works. It's got to be like, you got to be like the most, like, you got to be stupid being an entrepreneur. Like, you just got to be like, screw it, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to make this work no matter what. So let's take like US 3PL expansion. Like, we've sold millions of dollars into the US, like over $10 million into the US over the years. So,
as in shipping from Australia to ship. Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah.
So we have a customer base there. We have an email database. We know we've already got product market fit. We know it works. So we've actually tested things, and so we're just idiots for not doing it sooner. Right?
This is hilarious. I have founders that like, this is like my concept of this is like signal versus noise. You know what I mean? Like I've founders that have thriving Australian companies, and they might have like 40 orders into the US. Oh, geez, I better get in the US. Oh, God, I'm going to start looking at it. I'm like, you don't even know. It's just luck. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a great example of, like, there's ways that you can de-risk things and still test. So, for instance, how did we test the US? Well, we ship product from our Australian warehouse for a number of years to get product market fit, to know that a customer there actually wants it. We've run performance ads. We've done all of that in a really, really a poor customer service environment, because you're like, our products are heavy. So they're paying whatever, like $25, $30 for shipping.
Right.
And they're waiting like 2 weeks for the order, or 10 days. So you don't have to be a genius. You've actually got to be the opposite of it, like we were, to not push it earlier. But if you're getting those 40 orders and you don't have product market fit, and you're like, I'm going to go and spend, like, the killer in business is like cash flow. So it's like, you know, so like our cash flow hit for this US expansion is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you're even at a smaller scale taking up tens of thousands of dollars in cash flow, when you can deploy that in a testing environment to see how it actually fits in terms of product market fit, to de-risk things, and or use that money to continue to expand the market in Australia so that you're in a better financial position to take bigger bets. Like, that's the kind of thinking that you need. And that's part of getting your house in order, really.
It's interesting because, like, the common thread amongst all of this, like you're talking about, for example, like US expansion. You know, we had sold tens of millions of dollars into the US using this kind of like antiquated postage system of weeks and weeks for customers to wait, all of these like poor experiences. And so I'm like listening to what you're saying, but fundamentally beneath all of this is a really good product. Like, if that wasn't there, people wouldn't be buying. They wouldn't be waiting 2 weeks. They wouldn't come back over and over again. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I think it's such a powerful message that I think so many people need to hear, because like, it's the opposite of what you said at the start. Do things scrappy, and people go, oh, okay, cool. Let's just go and rush some shit to market and sell some crap. And he said performance marketing. I'm going to go do performance marketing. And they sell a shit product that does damage to the people who use it. And then they're like trying to scale in 4 different markets at the same time and lose money. And it's like, why? Because you sell shit.
Exactly.
You know?
And you don't have a mission, right? And so this is like the biggest issue with everyone who comes into our space. Like, I was on another podcast and they asked a question along the lines of like, what should people, like, a lot of people want to get into this space, like, what should they do? And like, for me, it's like, if you're not going into this space of supplements and health in order to genuinely help people, and it's just about money, like, you're a bit of a scumbag in my eyes. Like, my biggest, because I know that you're going to cut corners, because I know what your North Star is. So my biggest competitors, people think is in my industry. My biggest competitors aren't in my industry. My biggest competitors are the junk food aisle. Why should someone spend more money in my industry for a more expensive product when they can get a dopamine kick by having a Coke or a Mars bar or whatever? I love my competitors in my industry that produce great quality product, because a rising tide lifts all boats.
Very true.
And the people that I dislike the most in my industry are people, and I know them, they're people that are in it for money, and they're producing shit products, and they know they're producing shit products. And some of them are like major corporations as well with shareholders, and they're producing bullshit. And so this is like kind of that dark space you're talking about, which is, it's fucking like appalling when someone says, hey, they came into our industry, they tried the products, the health products, and it was health, like, greenwashing where you pretend you're eco-friendly. Well, there's health washing where you pretend you're healthy, and it's bullshit products. And people leave the industry after the initial, customer leaves the industry in inverted commas because they didn't have a good first experience, and they think, why should I spend more money on this crap?
Correct.
And then they just go back to eating unhealthy. So you've started.
Wow.
So these people, whether it's a startup and they started a company, or it's a global company selling bullshit, they've literally used their marketing to bring someone into an industry and fucked it over for the rest of us because we're not going to be able to sell to that person because they've had a really bad first experience. But if people come into our industry and they try my competitors' products first, and there's a bunch of competitors, I like them. They're producing great quality product. I don't think they're as good as ours, but I'm biased. But they're producing great product. They're having a great first experience, and then they're in the industry. They're in this environment, and so they're gonna actually make a second purchase maybe at Tropeaka. Because we have a lot of different products. They might try our collagen, but they might try the greens powder at the other company, and so their pantry is now full of a bunch of products from our industry that are actually helping them. Our catchphrase is conquer the day the healthy way.
Nice.
Rather than waking up, having a shitty breakfast, taking a bunch of junk food to work, feeling like crap all day, every day, getting through the day off some crappy coffee, and then going home and then sorting their life out with a tub of ice cream at night, So I feel very, very strongly about that because it's such an important thing for like young people or anyone coming into this industry where they're like, oh, supplements are doing great. I see this brand with their gummies or that brand doing this and that. Oh, I'm going to do that as well. They go to a contract manufacturer. They have no idea about product quality. And they just take whatever their contract manufacturer gives them, and then they overinflate what the product does. They tell everyone it can pretty much cure cancer. And then, or any other wild claim. And then the customer doesn't get that. And so like the thing I'm proud about is like we have over 20,000 5-star reviews on our website. We have an extremely good return customer rate. And we genuinely, like, if you want to make a crap load of money, help a crap load of people. Like have that as your goal, because if you're able to help and make a massive impact in life, like unless you do some really bad decisions around finances or don't understand your cogs, you're going to make a lot of money in the process.
I love that because so there's two things here. So number one, I'm like, that's what this guy's fucking passionate about. Like we talked about at the start, solving the problem, but listening to you talk right now, I'm like, boom, struck a vein.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is really cool is like, there's a mentor of mine and he has this concept of like, use your enemies to fuel you, right? And so listening to you talk about, for example, these quote unquote competitors that just like ruin it for your potential customers that would have potentially had like life-changing experiences using really good quality stuff, but now they're just like, those health foods, you know what I mean? I just have a sore tummy after eating that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's really bad because like, I go to like Woolworths, for example, and my wife will buy like some of those, I'm not sure, like random, like healthy chips and stuff. And I look at those things and I'm like, all the seed oils, all the preserve. I'm just like, why is this like 3 times the price of like freaking potato crisps?
Yeah.
Full of junk. Yeah. And people are buying this thinking that it's good for you and they're eating it and probably doing more damage than having just potato salt and freaking canola oil.
One of the biggest hidden secrets of the health food aisle and industries, most of that is permissible indulgence. So people
explain that.
Okay, so people walk down that aisle and they want an excuse to eat unhealthy food, but to feel like they're being healthy. And big brands play on that and produce bullshit products because they know that if they health wash it and they say, oh, it doesn't have this or that in it, or it's just because it's gluten-free or something else, then people will walk down that aisle. They'll get hit by the marketing. They'll think that they're being, and maybe they're like, maybe it's 10% or 20% healthier than the junk food aisle.
Yeah.
But like, that's not actually making someone genuinely healthy. And so that's what permissible indulgence is. Someone wants to give themselves permission that they can indulge here on this product when it's not going to give them the health outcomes that
it's
they
funny
want.
because you see it as well, and I laugh about it sometimes when I see like a protein bar or like a chocolate bar, and it's like vegan, and then like, and it has these ticks, and I'm like, really? Like you think that you need to tell me that you're like vegan, or really you think you need to tell me you're like sugar, all these like free of this? And I'm like, no shit, you are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it like gives the impression, oh wow, I'm doing a good thing. And I fall for myself. You know what I mean? Sometimes
we have to put it on our packaging for that very reason. If we don't, we won't sell product. But what I wish people would do is turn around, look at the ingredient labels, and then compare our ingredient labels and our nutritional information profile, our NIP, against our competitors in that aisle. And so if you want to make great decisions as a consumer, you need to learn how to read ingredient labels and NIPs. And if you want to sell products as a brand, you need to put all of those ticks and vegan and gluten-free on your products, or else no one will buy it.
So true.
So the only key differentiation between us and another product is really an educated consumer looking at the ingredient label to truly understand why we're different, because we all have the same ticks and blah, blah, blah on things.
It makes it incredibly hard, because like for an uneducated consumer who has a health problem, like they might go to the supermarket aisle as their first point of call to be like, maybe I'll choose something a bit different today. And then they see these, a bunch of different brands that all look pretty much the same, and make a decision based on maybe like what's on sale, or like, and then it's like end up using a product that's pretty ordinary in terms of quality. And then they're like, oh, you know what? It didn't work. I'm just going to go back to the next aisle over.
100%. And it's even challenging for a brand. In supermarkets, it's all price driven.
Exactly.
In health food stores and independents, it's not. You have the more educated consumer. You can sell a more, say, expensive product in terms of COGS as well. So as a brand, it's important to really understand where you're playing and figure out, okay, I want to make an impact on people's health here. What are the things that I need to do as a brand? Well, I've got to put all of these ticks and stuff on the front so people who only understand things in a basic, fundamental way can actually pick up our product to start with. That's like the first challenge. Yeah. And then how can I sneak as many healthy ingredients into the ingredient list as possible so that they're going to have a genuine impact. The product's going to have a genuine impact on the consumer and make them feel great. And so, yeah, it's a fun, interesting game. And I just don't like competitors that can only do the front of the package well, but they can't do the back of the package with good ingredients.
I use the matcha product.
Cool. And
I've used a lot of different other products before, and I've been using that. I mix it into my like greens in the morning instead of like coffee first up. Before I have a coffee, I'll have that, and it's great. I remember like as I used particular other products, and then I used that. I'm like, this tastes really good.
I'll give you a funny story. Exactly what we're talking about. So everyone now in the West has heard of ceremonial grade matcha. Yeah. Ours isn't ceremonial grade because that doesn't even exist. It's a marketing construct that was created. So the actual matcha suppliers don't call things ceremonial grade. And if they do, it's only because they've adopted it because of...
to suit the Western.
Yeah, the Western. So the guy that created ceremonial grade, they had culinary grade and premium grade, and then they were able to charge or create a third tier, which was, great marketing, in order to charge a whole lot more for ceremonial grade. So people are like,
that's mad.
And like ceremonial grade is $500 a kilo. like if ceremonial grade existed, like the top of the top, like matcha can be so expensive per kilo. Wow. So like you see like brands bring in ceremonial grade matcha. It's like, one, you don't even know that ceremonial grade. That's just marketing. Two, like if you actually had 100% ceremonial grade in your product, it would cost an absolute fortune for the consumer. So again, it's like these marketing things. So for us, we just lean on the fact that it's certified organic and it tastes amazing. And if you want proof, go and see the reviews on our website or try it yourself. We have a 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee, and that's a big thing that we always have. Like, try it, see how you feel. If you don't like it, we'll give you a refund.
That's amazing. What would be some, like, say for example, I'm an entrepreneur, or maybe I'm just like in my 9 to 5 and I'm like, my health doesn't feel that good. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, I've got a few things going on. I wake up a bit sore, similar maybe to what you had going on. You were like, I just feel like things aren't as good as what they are. My energy's not as good as what it could be. I feel a little bit tired. You know what I mean? I'm having more and more coffee each day. It doesn't seem to have any form of like impact. What would be a few things perhaps, and fully plug your supplement range? Like how would you maybe just prescribe a few things that like absolutely use this, maybe start with this? Like what would be some of those things?
Great. Well, I'm going to give you 5 things and I'm not going to plug my range because it's really important that people realize that our products are supplements. And so if you're doing all of these 5 things wrong and you take our products, your health will not improve. And that's really important. Number 1, get great quality sleep. Sleep is the best thing that you can possibly do. That involves turning off blue lights and screens and whatnot before bed for a good half an hour. Even if you work into the night, using Iris, which is a software that turns your screen orange or red. I use that every night. Not doing high stress things before bed, which good luck as an entrepreneur, but try your best.
Sounds good.
And yeah, getting that 8 hours and not eating for 2 to 3 hours before bed.
Yeah.
The second thing is exercise. So getting out and doing some form of exercise every single day. For me, like I like combining different what we call biohacks. So like I run on the beach every single day. That means I'm grounding. Nice. I don't have my shoes on. I'm getting out in nature, fresh air, and I'm training hard on the beach and running and doing body weight exercises. If you don't need to do high intensity every single day, but like go for a walk every day, get outside and try and do it under the sun. Like the sun predominantly, as long as you don't spend too much time out in the sun, it's good for you. It's what your body needs. You need vitamin D. The third thing is clean drinking water. Like filter your water and drink water throughout the day and try to do it out of like glass bottles or like I've got a stainless steel water bottle right here. Like choose that or like things that go well with water like tea or if it's a smoothie, because like if you have almond milk, it's predominantly water anyway. But make sure you're drinking enough water and put some like a high quality like salt in your water as well for electrolytes. You could buy electrolytes or you could like, which are great, but you could also just like another option is like putting like Celtic sea salt or one of the high quality salts into your water. The fourth thing is stress reduction. So figuring out, and this is a big one for like entrepreneurs and business people, like figuring out how you can reduce stress. I do kind of 2 things. Like I get out in nature, which is like my form of meditation, but I also like actually push myself and my body a lot in exercise every day, which is like a thing called hormetics, which is like pushing your body to a level of stress that it can then adapt and build a stronger body off. So for instance, like weightlifting is obviously hormetics, where you're actually causing stress to your body, but your body adapts. So like healthy levels of stress, and then learning to de-stress, whether it's meditation or for me, it's like getting out in nature for a walk. And then the 5th one is like high quality nutrition. So again, you don't need to take our products, but our products are convenient, high quality, and actually cost a whole lot less because they're in bulk. But the important thing to know is like cut out the crap from your diet and replace it with high quality nutrition. Now, if that's just whole foods and you've got the time in the day to eat whole foods all day, every day, then fantastic. We live in a world where purchase off the back of convenience. So that's why Tropeaka is a fantastic option for that, in the same way that Uber's a fantastic option rather than walking places. And I always use the analogy, which is like you don't take your car to a petrol station, a high performance vehicle. Imagine your body is a high performance vehicle. You wouldn't take it to the petrol station and fill it up with 98 premium fuel with half the tank and the other half of the tank with diesel, because it wouldn't run. So you can't think that you can have some whole foods in the morning. You might have some Tropeaka, and then for the rest of the day, you're going to eat ice cream and have 8 crappy coffees and finish the day at 7-Eleven with a Slurpee and think your body's going to run well. So if you want to be healthy, you actually got to put in the effort to be healthy. If you want a great business, you got to put in the effort to have a great business.
It's funny that there's unfortunately no secrets, or there's no hacks, or there's no like you know backdoor type of like access. It's just like, do these simple things, do them consistently, don't take fucking shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Very similar with your business, you know what I mean? Exactly. Do the hard work, do it consistently, solve the hard problems. Yeah, I love it. I want to finish with a couple of points here. So what were some of the hardest maybe like skills or things that you had to learn? Because I'm like listening to the way you communicate, listening to the way that you understand your business of what you do in terms of like, there's a sense that you can really understand the details. You know what I mean? When you talk about things, I find that people that are able to explain things simply and in a way that like describes very articulately the details of each of the things that they do, it's like you grasp the concept. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do that. And so listening to you talk, I'm like, you get it. I would hope so, right? And then it's like you're so passionate and driven about what you do. And I'm just thinking, what were some of the hardest things that you had to learn, right, from maybe a skill set perspective through this journey of building the business that you feel like maybe didn't come naturally to you being a tennis coach prior? What were the things that you're like, geez, like I had to work to get that?
Everything.
A whole lot.
Everything. Yeah, like I had no formal training on any of this. There's skill sets that you can go and learn off other people, like marketing and things along those lines. I think one of the biggest challenges for me that I can still do better and constantly looking to improve on is just general leadership, right? Like, how do I communicate to people really well? Sometimes in the past I've been too soft, right? And like, that's as someone who started the company at 24, over the years, hiring people that are older than you as well, like I needed more strength in terms of having very clear expectations. And the people around me as well were more on the more gentle side,
right,
perhaps.
Right.
But great leaders are uncompromising and they're very clear with their expectations. And they're also okay if people don't fit with the culture. And so that's something that I'm continually working on and probably being more okay with, like, I don't need to be, like, I play a specific role in my company and my demeanor and how I act and the expectations I have. And so working through all of that and maturing has been very beneficial to me and the company, and something that didn't always come easy straight away. And that's okay. And in terms of other challenges, again, like everything's been super hard, but difficult conversations are always hard. So making sure that you can have those difficult conversations and you're okay with it. I love a book called, Tim Ferriss actually recommends this. I think I found it out off him, but it's like Awareness by Anthony DiMeo, LLO. And it's all about just having a very strong awareness of the silliness that can exist inside your head on a day-to-day basis.
Sounds like a great concept. I've not read that. Yeah.
Like caring or thinking through things in a way don't even matter. Like everything that we do in life is this massive juxtaposition between completely significantly and also totally insignificant at the.
Oh God, I battle with this like all the time. I'm like so obsessed with something, and then I'm like, who actually gives a fuck?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so, yeah, like you've got to have a deep understanding of why you do what you do and the significance around that, which I do, but also like an understanding in the end, like there's also a massive level of insignificance on certain things on your day-to-day that just won't matter. They won't matter in 2 weeks. They won't matter in 6 months. They won't matter in 10 years. And I really like that book, Awareness, for that.
I'll have to check it out. I love this frame. It's called the veteran frame, where it's like the new recruit goes to like battle for the first time and runs out into the battlefield and bullets are whizzing past his head. He's like freaking out. His heart's racing. He's like, this is terrifying. The veteran goes to the battlefield. He's been there 200 times before. Bullets are whizzing past his head. Heart rate is like 60 BPM. And he gets the job done, comes home, like, you know what I mean? And so it's like too many times we sit there in situations as if we're the novice. You know what I mean? It's like, what if the problem that you're having is just the way that it is, rather than like, oh my God, I've got to find it. This can't be right. It's like, it just is.
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? Make it work.
Yeah.
It's very, very like calming sometimes. What are you on the edge of at the moment? Are there any things that you're kind of doing or within the company you guys are doing that probably you're like afraid of, or you're having a big swing at the moment and you're like, oof, like this is going to stretch us, or maybe personally?
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I'm uncomfortable all the time. Like, I'm doing this podcast not for marketing. I'm doing it because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, being able to articulate your words and communicate well and be put on the spot. Like, you haven't given me any questions ahead of time.
No.
So it's a great challenge. You know, like I drove over an hour here today to be uncomfortable. And so, in certain times in public speaking or that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And that's part of leadership. And so it's about putting yourself into uncomfortable situations as often as possible in order to grow in your leadership is important. In terms of the business, I mean, the only time I'm worrying and concerned, it's generally around cash flow.
Yeah.
But also we're so conservative that I know that we can always just go borrow money if we need to.
True.
So we're in a very good place there. And we've always got the cash flow in order to get through that, but we haven't needed to, which is amazing. So I've been very, very happy. The only time we ever borrowed money was once with with a company going into Coles for the first time.
Right.
And we didn't even need it in the end. So I ended up just paying interest on something I didn't need. So that wasn't, again, us being probably too conservative. So cash flow worries are probably the main thing. And easy way out of that is just to know your numbers even better on a week by week basis. So like we're working on a whole bunch of like reporting at the moment that gives us really solidified weekly numbers, because traditionally we're more monthly and quarterly in terms of our numbers and our reviews. So yeah, there's always something, and there's always a plan of attack that you can kind of put in place and level up in order to feel less worried about things.
Dude, I'm really, really, really impressed with the just authenticity and honesty that you bring to this conversation, and just in general, I can see how that would transfer across your business. Like coming from the top of the conversation around, the problem that you solved initially at the start, through to how you think about your competitors and the people that you're fighting against in terms of like the wrongs that you want to right with the industry. I'm really inspired by what you do, and I think a lot of people need to operate more from this perspective, because it's like it's sustainable. You know what I mean? I see so many people out there and they get pumped up with fucking hot air. They follow idiots that don't know what they're doing. They make tremendous mistakes because it's all grounded on bullshit. And so like listening to the way that you operate, I'm like, there's serious like purpose behind what you do. Like there's this immense drive to right a lot of wrongs with the industry. And I'm like, it's pretty terrifying to think where this brand will be in the next like 10, 20 years. So I'm super excited, and I appreciate you coming here and getting uncomfortable and having a conversation with me today.
Thanks, Sasha. Yeah, I really enjoyed it and appreciate you having me on. Thanks for the kind words.
Where can people connect with you, follow you, spend some more time? I know you have a podcast as well, I believe, or you share some episodes as well.
Yeah, I'm very inactive on our podcast these days. Yeah,
Got it.
Used to do it back in the 2021 days. I might do a couple episodes again. That was the Healthy Life podcast. But for me, Tropeaka is our main thing. So it's a combination of tropical and peak performance with an A on the end. So TROPEAKA.
Yeah.
.com. And then I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can get me on Kalashau, which is a combination of my name, CALASHALL.
Nice.
And I'm pretty inactive there as well. But you might see me on some
Don't
ads
expect to hear
there.
back.
Yeah. But LinkedIn if you want to talk to me as well.
And I'll be an advocate for it, because I recommend your brand a lot. So I'd love it. It would mean a lot to me if people use your products over any of the other shit that's in the market. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.